Hello, Mr. Batchelor. Thank you so much for doing this interview with me. For those that don't know, this is our new principal of Frankston High School. Thank you for taking the time to do this with me. So I'll just have a bit of a chat, I guess.
Great.
My first question to you is, being a principal is hard work, particularly at such a big school like Frankston High School. What made you take the job?
Yeah, great question. I think, and thank you for interviewing me too, Michaela. I'm a real privilege to be here and privileged to be the principal of Frankston High School. And I think it is a big job. It's a huge job, but it's also a real challenge. And I think in taking it, I felt probably a couple of things. And one was that obviously I felt really ready in my leadership to be a principal, which has been a journey. So I didn't just get to be a principal. And I certainly didn't think, as a child, that was my only career pathway either. But, you know, when I became a teacher and was fortunate enough to work in classrooms with young people and then with staff as well, it kind of evolved over time. And luckily enough, I've been given opportunities throughout my time and been able to, I think, work on my leadership to make sure that I have impact in schools. And yeah, when the Frankston position came up, I didn't know a lot about the school, but I had worked with a couple of people who had worked at Frankston High School previously, and I sought their advice, obviously, around the school. And ideally, when you look at Frankston High School, a school like this has such a great reputation, 97th year of operation, huge history, and you know, really well received in the community, as it should be. I thought, well, what would my fit be there? You know, I didn't want to apply for a position, a principal position, if I didn't think that I could fit at the school and, you know, I could suit Frankston High School and work with the community. And I certainly found that out with my research. I thought, wow, there's so many great things here. Also, I thought that I can hopefully come in and, yeah, lead some further improvements in some areas too moving forward. So, really, once I kind of did the research, I thought, wow, there's so much about this school that I would love to be the principal here. And fortunate for me, I now am here as principal. So it is, and there's still days where I'm pinching myself. It's week 6, and I'm really fortunate to be here. I'm loving every aspect of the role. It is a challenge, but I'm really looking forward to that. I'm working with great people, and I've got, I think this community is the best school. I'm like his, principal in Australia. To be honest, great school, great students, great young people, great staff who are so passionate, and great parents, and what a community. So we are Frankston, and what a place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic students, if I do say so myself. So what do students, parents and staff in the community need to know about you?
Yeah, good one. Without going too much into a history, I think, I'm massive on family and communities. I think is a big thing for me. It's really important. I'm a father as well of 3 children, aged 10, 5 and 4. And I think that keeps me really grounded, obviously, but it also brings me back to education and why I got into education as well. And it's for young people. And it's to work to make sure that we improve and give opportunities. So I think about me, I am really honest and upfront. I'm really authentic, and I try to be really authentic. What you see is what you get. With me, I will give an honest opinion on things. I'm really open to feedback. I love giving feedback, or I love receiving feedback on how I'm going. And I'm really big on teams working together. I think that's how you get a bit of a buzz and a vibe in a school. So whether it's the eco team, Michaela, that you obviously you lead as well, I think teams within a school environment are so important. I love lots of different things. I love education, of course. I love reading research around education. I do love sport as well. Growing up, I was encouraged to be involved in sport. I love the arts as well. I love music. I love cooking. I love eating. So I love different things, and it's a balance, and I think that works as well. I love exercise as well. So I love different things, but if the community hopefully can get to know me, it's still early, get to know me over this journey, and I really want to work really closely with the Frankston community, the student, staff and parents.
Yeah, absolutely. Being team orientated and open and honest and being open to feedback is all great qualities to have in a principal. So that's very exciting. So as a student, I think it is important for me to ask you, what are your priorities for projects and improvements of the school? What do you most want to change within the school of Frankston High, even though it is such a great school? What is your priorities?
Yeah, it's a huge question. It's a great one because it's, and I think I'll start it by saying that obviously I've got ideas and looked at data at Frankston High School, and I'm starting to see how the place runs after, in my 6th week. It's still very early, and I think why I'm saying that is it needs to suit Frankston High School in the context. So I've got some ideas. For instance, I would love to continue to focus on student voice and student agency. I think that's really vital. And also with that, though, we need to make sure we've got staff voice and parent voice too, and a community voice. So I think we need to make sure that moving forward, it's fine for me to come in and say, okay, I want a project that in one of my previous schools we did this, and let's put it at Frankston. I think we need to make sure, and I need to make sure that it suits Frankston and it's going to lead to improvements, and that everyone feels empowered and will buy into that too. So it's no good a new principal coming in and saying, okay, here's what I want to do, here's my vision, here's how we're going to achieve it. I need to obviously make sure I really build the leadership capacity of our leaders, capacity of our teachers, and capacity of our students to be able to work together to improve Frankston High School. So student voice and agency is one that stands out though, and we've got so many great examples of that happening at Frankston already with the different teams. We've got a great student leadership program here too, so I'd love to continue to drive change in that area as well to strengthen it even further. And also I think it does have to be in the classroom. I think teaching and learning is why we come to school. Student wellbeing, mental health are also really important to me, along with staff wellbeing. And I think that if we focus on what's happening in the classroom, but also we're looking at students holistically, and continually getting our young people, giving them opportunities to step up as well, like we do. Our sport program, our music program, arts are amazing. So continually strengthening those, but also making sure we really tap into the voice of our community here to make sure that they feel empowered to continue to lead and drive school improvement as well.
I can say as a student, that's very exciting to hear. So as a principal, what are you most passionate about? You mentioned a bit of student voice and agency, but what else are you most passionate about?
Yeah, I do think, I spoke a little bit around teams. I love just working together with people, and I think that in schools, that's what we're here for. So it is, teachers and staff working with students primarily. That's the core relationship we've got, and then with parents. So that 3-way partnership that it needs to be, but primarily in a school, in a classroom, or if it's out in the yard, it's adults with young people, students, and it's making sure there's a real positive relationship. So I'm really passionate about how people, actually get along and work together productively, but also, and there's going to be challenges with that, of course. So personalities come into it, and we're not all the same, and that's fantastic. But how do we get the best out of others? And I think that teams is a way to do that. But also that I'm really passionate about making sure that people have a voice, and their opinions, even if we don't all agree, that they're listened to, and that's how we're going to get momentum to move forward. So yeah, really passionate around young people feeling safe, secure, but also coming to school and being happy. I think that's, after last year, the year we had, it's probably even more important than it's ever been before, that our students can come to school feeling safe, happy and secure, and also that they're in a class and they can learn, and then when they're in that class, where's their voice? So as well as what's happening with some great practice. So our teachers do a fantastic job, but how do we make sure we continue to grow that?
Yeah, definitely. So Malala once said, when someone takes away your pens, you realise quite how important education is. Why do you think education is important?
I think it is. It's a starting point. It's a foundation, I think, for people to have knowledge and skills. And I think without knowledge and skills for young people, you can't be successful in life. And I've learned that. And I love the quote about pens, because, we're in a technological age, yet I have, myself, I use pens a lot still. I still keep a diary, a hard copy, which is probably a little bit traditional or outdated, but I also have one, obviously my OneNote and electronic calendar as well. But I think it is, when we're talking around knowledge and learning, I think education is key to that. And there's so much that we can learn, and it's a really creative curriculum. And obviously we've got VCE and Victorian curriculum as well to guide that. But it's also about life and some of the bigger issues as well, and making sure that our young people are exposed to the different knowledge and skills that we can actually give them as well to go into life and succeed as best they can.
Yeah, definitely. So the World Economic Forum lists tech skills and human skills like creativity, persuasion, collaboration amongst the most required skills for jobs in the near future. what do you think are some of the most important skills students need to be educated in, given the world is changing so significantly in lots of varying ways?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's lots of, I think we always see around and we hear a lot around careers or jobs that we don't know yet exist in this world. And I think that's fantastic, and we need to be really mindful of that too. And there's been a real push, and us too. We've got an amazing STEM centre and STEM education, which is all important. I think the biggest one though for me that stands out is the human skills and being able to collaborate and work with people. And I think when you're doing that, that's to problem solve. So I think that you really need in this day and age to be able to collaborate and work with all different types of people. And I don't see that changing in the future, even if, we've moved into a bit more, as we did last year, into a remote learning environment. So how do we use technology? And it certainly made me reflect on my leadership, but also my ability to do my role. And I really missed the human contact. It was on a screen. As I said previously, I love to work in teams and I love to work with people, and without that human one-on-one or small group contact, it was a challenge. So I think hopefully from that and that social side for young people too, I think it's more important than ever that you are, in the future going to need to collaborate with different people from all walks of life, and whether it's people you work with closely or people in society. I think that's a great skill to have. So collaboration, but the ability to work with them to actually solve a problem or to come up with ideas and then actions to move forward. So they're probably the major ones I would think that I think are going to be really important.
Absolutely, especially after lockdown last year. I think we all discovered the privilege of human relationships and teamwork and all that. So it's really awesome to keep that going. So you get to spend a night on your own, free from distractions. What do you eat, drink, and watch?
Well, that sounds very strange because of my family, a young family, obviously, and to be away from them, that would be really strange, and I miss them greatly as well. But first thing, what would I do? That's a great question because I'm not sure. I love to watch sport and movies as well, like anyone. So if I was to watch something, it would probably be something that, and also shows, but something that's probably a little bit different and not so heavily invested emotionally, I would say. So maybe whether it's something lighthearted or something that's a bit kind of not surreal but different, I'd probably enjoy that. I do like thrillers, a bit of sci-fi as well. I don't mind. So something like that. Also watching sport. Yeah, I love watching AFL. I'm a big St Kilda fan. I do. Michaela. I do love watching. Also, I'm into my NFL, so American Gridiron, the Las Vegas Raiders. So, and NBA basketball as well. They're probably the biggest sports I like to watch. So whether it be sport, because I don't probably get to do that. If I was home alone, that's probably something I would do more of. Eating food. I love food. That's hard to cut it down. What would I eat? Maybe something like, something spicy. I like spicy food, but with young children, it doesn't quite mix all the time. So maybe something spicy as well that I could actually have, and then make sure I had plenty of water or milk on hand. But spicy food. That wouldn't impact on the children not being able to eat it.
Sounds like a good night. So, do you have a favourite book? And if so, why is it your favourite? Yeah,
straight. That's a wonderful question. Because I read different books, and a lot of them are probably based on leadership, to be honest, or education things, because there's so much in that space, and I'm still learning, which is wonderful. I'll take a different tack though. I think one of my favourite books was from my school days, actually, a novel studied in Year 11 English of Mice and Men, and I think why it was, or resonated with me, I think it was, to be honest, and this is going to sound maybe a bit boring, but it was because of the teacher, to be honest, and the class, and studying it and the themes together was what made it, I suppose, the message behind the story as well really stand out. So George and Lenny, I still remember the story really well, and it's something I love my children to read one day when they're old enough, the book as well, because I think it's got some great messages in it. But it's a book that, is something a different kind of way. I've read heaps of books over the time, but that certainly stands out to me from, a novel that we studied when I was a student, and then with some great themes and messages, but the way the teacher actually worked with the class to unpack it, to make sure we really understood it. And that was, I could say an English teacher at my school had a great impact on me as a student, and it's probably part of the reason why I ended up in education, to be honest. So, but it was, that was something that when you're reading, and I loved reading when I was young, my parents encouraged me to read a lot. Remember the Hardy Boys, I think it was. I read when I was younger. Probably embarrassing saying that. And Choose Your Own Adventure books as well. So I loved reading from a young age. But that was the first time I remember vividly actually unpacking, kind of the text, the themes within a novel, and then had to write a piece on it. And I thought, oh wow, this is pretty awesome. So that's probably one that stands out for me.
Awesome. So by 2050, it has been reported that at the current rate of pollution, there will be more plastic than fish in the ocean. On top of this, it has also been reported that plastic pollution has infiltrated all facets of the human food chain, and that we ingest roughly 1 credit card worth of plastic a week. Do you think society should be shifting away from plastic where it can?
Yes, it is. Look, it's incredible how much reliance I think we have on plastic, and sorry, I just had an issue over that. Just how much reliance there is, and I think it's, to be honest, is it a convenience thing? It makes you think though. I know I've got two children at school now, and one of the schools has been really big from day one that there's no plastic-free lunches. So that's made me reflect really, and even when you buy things from the shop. We've been pretty mindful around that, so we don't throw our plastic out with the rubbish. We have a separate kind of collection for it that we take back and recycle. So, and even there though, you actually realise how much, unfortunately, you are impacting on the environment and others, which isn't a good thing. But when you go to the shops, you see it, and it's all the packaging there. Unfortunately, it's a way of, I think, mass production, and it's cheaper for them to produce it that way, but we at home like to store things in tubs, but when we buy it, you're still buying the plastic, so we try and pack in kids' lunches, make sure they're plastic free where possible. Obviously being in a school, and I've worked in schools, a number of schools now, there's been, I think, issues around litter in all those schools, and making sure that we educate young people. Yet that's the reactive part, isn't it? Obviously we educate them not to drop litter, but if we could stop them having the litter in the first place, the items, then that's a lot more proactive. So that's a challenge. That is a big challenge, and I think that's a big challenge for us as a community, which I'm really excited to take on that challenge too. There's a few challenges in the role, but that's one thing, and I know that you, Michaela, and your team are so passionate about it, which is wonderful. And we can always get better at that, and I think we need to educate people around the harm of it, but we need to change mindsets as well, and habits, which is the difficult part. So it's and I know as a parent too, I remember it's easier just to put a packet of popcorn or chips or whatever into the kids' lunches. It saves time, and everyone's time poor. So how do we prioritise our time to make sure that we are really looking after the environment for currently, but also for future?
Yeah, absolutely. And from a parent's perspective, because the Frankston High School Eco Team would love to initiate a single-use plastic ban, and we actually have this year, so hopefully everyone can come on board. But as a parent, I guess you can give insight onto the fact that it may be hard to start with, but it's something that is now in your normal routine.
Yeah, definitely.
And definitely something that's easy to adapt to.
Yeah, it is, and the change is possible. It certainly is, and I wouldn't have thought that it'd be easy for our family to do it, but we have. You learn the new way, and it becomes part of your mindset. It does, and it's a nice feeling. It really
just
is.
Make it a priority in your everyday, make a difference in the world. So if Google search was removed from Australia, would you cry or cheer? Can you explain?
Good question again, Michaela. Cry or cheer? How much? Do I use Google much? Occasionally, not much. It's strange, isn't it? Because I think when people want to know something, it's automatic, it's there, it's instant. And I think, you think back, and not the good old days when I was a boy. However, the internet wasn't around when I was a student learning, which feels like forever ago. How did we cope? But we relied on teachers, we relied a lot on adults, and we relied on books for the knowledge. I would think that with the internet and Google, etc., what it's brought is an ability to probably take in a global perspective more, which is a benefit. I do think, though, that it's obviously, unfortunately, brought in some other things that, that if you see something on Google, you necessarily might believe it from that source, and it's not necessarily the case. It might be someone's opinion or a viewpoint there that they've tried to put together, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's great research or great to rely on that information. So how do we, would I cry or cheer? I wouldn't cry. I'm not sure I'd cheer, but I wouldn't be disappointed either. I think it'd be a challenge what we'd have to do, and that's our challenge, to educate young people how we use technology and the information, isn't it? It's no longer are we in classes where students don't have prior knowledge on a lot of things that on a surface level that they've got some understanding about already, and that's our role as facilitators, is to make sure we harness their prior knowledge and also grow that and build it. But the teacher and student need to work together, and it has brought some benefits, but it's also brought some disadvantages. So, it's a challenge in how we currently operate, I would say, still, and it would be a challenge moving forward if it went. I wouldn't be, hopefully, sorry, Google, people out there. I'll give a plug, we're in Microsoft School too. So,
So climate change is warming the globe, and left unchecked will have dire consequences for all of humanity. However, for every problem brought about by climate change, there is a solution. Do you think over the next few years there will be the willpower from all levels of society to engage with what needs to be done to avoid catastrophic consequences for future generations?
That's a long question, Michaela. That's a big one. Wow. I'm a positive person, optimistic, and I would like to think so. I'm also realistic, and I think a lot of work needs to be done in the space to educate people effectively, and I think it needs to start with young people. And I'm not saying start just because, but I think they're going to be the future generations. And I think when we give young people a voice and an ability to also, not just a voice, an ability to actually see that their actions as a result of their voice can be meaningful and make change, that is where we're going to get the impetus, I think. For people who've lived, and I put myself in here to that older age bracket, I think when we haven't gone through and been made aware of it, and that's no one's fault, it's just how it has been. I think growing up, climate change, how much did I hear about it in my school or education? Not a lot in classrooms, probably in pockets, and as time's gotten on, and even in schools I've worked in, certainly it's been more of a focus, yet I think it's the bigger issue. And how do we teach it in schools? I suppose the impact. And I know when I went down to the Frankston Lifesaving Club just to see, your planning day, the eco team, to see even the video and then the reflections from young people, from students in different teams around, here's what we took from it. What can we do about it? Is a really great starting point. And I think that schools definitely have a responsibility to make sure that our young people within here are really aware of it and understand climate change, and also that if we don't do something about it, then we're almost as bad as we're part of the problem. We're not part of the solution moving forward. So we're seeing in the community and society, I think, more voice around it, which is great, but it can't just be left to those people, and it can't just be left to too few. So how do we get the groundswell? And I certainly think it comes from having young people who are passionate enough about it to make sure you work with us, older people, to make sure and that we're accountable too, to make sure that we're really pushing that as well. I think it's so important, the environment as a whole, when we step back and stop, and schools are such a busy place, there's so much learning happening, but it is okay, what can we do as Frankston High School, what can we do to advance our thinking around climate change as well, and then what's the flow-on effect from that as well?
With what you were saying with schools having a responsibility to teach young students about climate education and climate science, there is still a lot of misconceptions within society on the information of and the facts of climate change. Do you think there's a way to better embed climate science into the everyday curriculums throughout all the different subjects, but also to ensure that geography is a subject at our school that is taught in VCE levels, because it was not taught this year or the last couple of years?
Yeah, that's a great question, isn't it? And I think I mentioned before in one of my responses about a creative curriculum, and I think that And that, I'm not blaming anyone for that. It's just, I think everyone is so passionate around education, and from, primary years, 7 years and then 6 years of high school as well, what fits into that massive landscape or scope. There's, there is probably some politics involved in it, and there's people who want, their different subject areas. In secondary, we move to everyone's, our specialist subjects where we teach, and that's our degree and what we learn. So we're really passionate around our areas. I think it'd be, beneficial personally as well, and how we do that is a challenge. But obviously we teach our subject, the knowledge and skills and the content that we have to, that's in the curriculum. How much scope do we have to go outside that? And then we've got our, cross-curricular priorities as well, and our capabilities from the Vic curriculum. So how do we effectively teach those when, perhaps you're not trained to teach those as well? And are they as important than the skills? And that's a constant, I think, a real battle for teachers too, though, because we're really passionate. Say, if I'm a French teacher, I want my students to be able to be taught, French, the vocab, and be able to write it. Yet also, what about, how do I teach them the social skills or empathy as well? And that's a challenge. So where does climate change and that fit in? I think that's a really big question, and that I think, our policymakers need to really look at too, and how they can put, where does climate change fit, rather than a school just making a decision that is, Frankston High School, I can sit here and say, okay, well, we're going to teach climate change because I want us to teach it, but that's only happening at Frankston High School, and it may be at a couple of year levels. So where's the flow-on effect, and where are we all having consistency in it? So there has been, and I think unfortunately with, different stages and research, there's always the other side who would argue, climate change, is it real? Mm-hmm. How do we know? Things like that. I hope, and I've certainly heard less of that case, more recently, and I hope that's the case. That comes with education, and I think it comes with consistency of message too, which I do believe, needs to start in schools. Mm-hmm. To be honest, the part of your question around geography and teaching that, I think in the schools I've been in, look, to be honest, I think we've had, geography hasn't run at a VCE in all the schools I've been in, because we haven't had a teacher qualified to teach it, mm-hmm. Because it is a unique subject. And I grew up, having all the strands of humanities separate, so history, geography, economics, business, legal, accounting, etc., all of that. And some schools it becomes part of a humanities pile, mm-hmm. as well, where you teach junior hums, history, geography combined, and then you're teaching the senior separate. Mm-hmm. I think we've probably seen, for whatever reason, less geography trained teachers come into the profession of late. So we've lost experience at the top end go out, where schools have been able to offer that as a subject. And as soon as that teacher generally goes with those skills, if it's not replaced as subject, it won't be chosen to, mm-hmm. by students. So there goes that choice. So I think there certainly needs to be a pathway though, and I think that's beneficial. I'm really aware that schools can't offer every subject though,
yes.
as well. So it comes back to student choice, mm-hmm. and a need for it. So if there's student demand at this school, and based on parents, but also particularly students, mm-hmm. if you guys want to study a subject and you choose it, then I suppose my role and our role is to make sure we get the best teacher possible who's qualified to teach it. So geography can run if students choose it and want it, and we've got a teacher who's trained, and certainly they need to be trained, because I don't want to put a teacher who's not trained in a field in front of a class where they're not an expert, whatever it is. But particularly in this space, geography, and if we're discussing climate as well, certainly, obviously I'm hearing you're passionate about it. It'd be great if our students want to pursue that field as well. Definitely,
especially because climate change is one of our number one priorities, and problems that we will be facing as students. It could be really important for students to have that option to study geography in the senior year. So I am currently 17 years of age. What advice would you give me for my future?
Wow. I think one thing is, this isn't probably advice, probably to continue, Michaela, because you asked. I would say, for young people though, just be really passionate, and be yourself. Like, you have to be yourself. I think we live in a society and things where there are lots of kind of images of what the norm should be. And I think the beauty of people and humans is that we're all different, and I think the beauty is also that we can bring out the best in each other, not the worst, which unfortunately sometimes happens. But I think that you need to be really passionate about something in particular, and you need to follow that. I think if you're really passionate about something, explore it and keep that going and have persistence, because life's not an easy pathway, and it doesn't necessarily lead a straight road all the time. So be really passionate, be yourself, and be confident. I think confidence and self-esteem are really big issues that we see for young people in schools, but in society. And for whatever reason, I know there's so much pressure today in the world, but also I think if we strip it back and say, well, be yourself, be passionate, enjoy what you're doing, and be happy, you're going to get so much out of life. And also I'd say with that, look out for each other and actually work with people. I think it's when we don't work with people, we become isolated, that some of those things don't lead to positive outcomes, unfortunately. And it's you might be really skilled and passionate, but you're not going to achieve your dreams unless you work with other people to get there. And you're going to feel a hell of a lot better about yourself and also about others and your journey if you get to impact on others throughout that time.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you could travel anywhere in the entire world, where would you most like to visit and why?
Yeah, great question. I've travelled a little bit over time. I haven't been to a lot of places in the world. I think it'd be somewhere probably where I haven't been, and so straight away my gut feel on that one would maybe, and this might sound strange for those who know me, but maybe in India or somewhere somewhere really different that I haven't been. I've been to Europe when I was younger. I've been to some Asian countries as well on family holidays and some school trips, but I haven't been to India, which kind of fascinates me a little bit, just in terms of, I think, a massive class divide and also so many people. I've been fortunate enough to be to Shanghai before in China, and that was really an eye-opening experience to see so many people. And I remember walking down a main street where there were shops in Shanghai, and this is pre-COVID obviously, but the pollution, and everyone had face masks on, and a lot of people were smoking, which also horrified me a bit, but I won't be off that. But yeah, it was the air quality, but also people, just the movement. It was amazing to see so many people. But people in Shanghai that we walked through, it was, they're all reasonably well off, I would say. And going into shops, I think India would fascinate me in terms of those real challenges between such a class divide, but also real intense poverty, people struggling to even eat, and be diseases and things like that. Probably just to reinforce human nature and how you can hopefully lead some change. And I'd certainly want to focus on schools over there as well. The job they do in providing opportunities for young people to get an education, and their country sounds amazing too. They're so into their sport as well, and life, but how they improve and make sure that young people are successful. I think it'd be something I'd really enjoy.
Definitely. I definitely recommend going to India 2 years ago with the school with World Challenge. I got the privilege of going to India. Very eye-opening experience. Definitely recommend it. So, in 1977, the world population was a little over 4 billion. In 2021, the world population will approach 8 billion people. With human development higher than ever in history, it means population are indeed using more natural resources than ever. This will have dire consequences for the environment if left unchecked. The only answer is for all of the world to become far more sustainable. What are your thoughts on a school's role in leading students and staff towards a more sustainable future?
Great question. Another very long one, Michaela. I think, look, again, I've spoken a little bit here and I don't want to repeat too much, but I think sustainability is a huge theme for schools, and I think it needs to be. And I think it's sustainability of everything we do. I've been in some schools who've done it really well previously, where we've had staff working closely with students and also the community to make sure that as a school we were really mindful. There were a number of initiatives, from saving electricity to water monitoring, to making sure that we grew herbs and veggies for the food tech classes, to having spaces like a wetlands, to having a forest that and then having, birds in there and possums and things like that. So I've seen some really amazing things. I think that out of all of that, sustainability, the schools need to obviously be really mindful of, but it's the difficult part is how you get, young people and educate them and keep that going, I think, because I've found that with students, they're also busy as we are as staff, but you need to, because you get groups of students generally who are passionate about a cause or passionate about, say, the environment or sustainability, and then it may rely on a few of them, and then as they move through the school, they become busy or they leave the school, and then you need to make sure at the same time you've got the next group of students coming through. So I think a little bit like around our conversation, climate change, sustainability too, I think how do we actually educate people around that as well, because in schools it's so busy. How do we make sure we actually spend enough time doing it? And there's some great things, the Eco team here, that you've done and you continue to do, and it's making sure that, I think, for next year, Michaela, that when you go on out into the big wide world to do whatever you want to do, and then before you become Prime Minister at some point, but also it is that we need to make sure we've got succession plans, and I'm sure in the Eco team we do. We've got some younger students coming through, but so we've still got those people who are really passionate to help drive it amongst the students. And also we need to make sure, we've got Mr. McKinnon, but we need other staff. And there are other staff as well. I've seen some of the videos that with staff who've been involved. But how do we make sure that, for the future, sustainability at Frankston High School is a real focus and can be. And it can't just rely on, some people some of the time. It needs to rely on all of us all of the time.
Absolutely. So I have one last question for you, and I think it's the most important question of them all. What is your favourite ice cream flavour?
Yeah, no idea. Favourite ice cream? Actually, it is. This is strange, anyways. It is boysenberry. Would you believe it? I'm not sure why, because I don't know if I've ever eaten a boysenberry. But the boysenberry flavour in ice cream is nice. I like the ripple through it, but only generally if I can be picky with that from an ice cream shop. So I don't buy a tub of boysenberry ice cream. Other flavours, probably boysenberry stands out to me. I do like ice cream in general, but boysenberry is probably my number one, my go-to.
Absolutely. Sounds good. There you have it, guys. So thank you so much, Mr. Batchelor, for doing this interview with me and taking the time out of your busy schedule. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure everyone watching has enjoyed getting to know you a bit more and has given us some insight into our new principles. So thank you.
Thanks, Michaela. Absolute pleasure to be interviewed by you. So thank you and well done.
Thank you.